Everybody's talking at me.
Chuck Wilder here with my co-host today, Rick Oatman, Media Director for CAPS, capsweb.org. Should be checking in with D.A. King in a little bit. We're going to try to get all these calls in, and we appreciate you keeping it to a bare minimum if you can, and share your thoughts on Terry Anderson with Rick Oatman. Let's go to Laverne in Van Nuys.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Laverne. Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
I met Terry years ago when we all belonged to Voice of Citizens Together here in Sherman Oaks with Glenn Spencer. He's a great guy. I met him up at the Jeffersons many times when we went to functions up in La Cañada. And Terry loved Laurel and Hardy, and I'm sure he's up there right now meeting them in person and playing golf with George Putnam. I'm sure they're up there hobnobbing.
There you go.
My condolences to his family. I sent them a card, and I just hope maybe they will have a little memorial. I was shocked that the Times and the Daily News had nothing. Maybe the relatives wanted that way, but there wasn't any kind of a squib, and he did his show for 9 years here in Los Angeles.
Rick, any comments on that?
No, that's where I met the Voice of Citizens Together meeting early in the early in the 90s, and gosh, I mean, you just think back at all the stuff that we did, and I just I appreciate those times as I think back on them, because we were so hopeful in those days that we could get stuff done, and to talk to somebody who could speak truth to power like Terry was just so refreshing.
Hey, thank you for sharing that with us, Laverne. And right now I want to go to one of my favorite people, writer for Vidare, Vidare.com, Brenda Walker. How are you, Brenda?
Well, news that I'm still getting used to. I would like to share a little story that might encourage people. This happened to me about 8 years ago. I live in Berkeley, up in the northern part of California, and I was waiting for the bus in downtown Berkeley, and an older black gentleman was waiting, and he asked me about the bus. Obviously, he didn't live in this part of the country, and we began chatting, and turned out he lived in Los Angeles. And I went, oh, well, that's interesting. And I said, well, perhaps you've heard of a friend of mine who is on the radio down there, Terry Anderson. He said, why, yes, he is well known in our community. And just at that moment, the bus came, so I wasn't able to quiz him any further. I certainly wanted to. But I'm just bringing that up to point out how Terry touched many people. Mm-hmm. And I think he touched a lot of people in the black community and influenced a lot of people that, maybe the misgivings that they felt were shared by others. I'm just... I like many others, I'm very brokenhearted that
it's one of those surprises, It's something that just sneaks up on you and slams you down on the floor.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel. So anyway, I'm really glad that I knew him, and like everyone who knew him, I miss him very much.
And thank you very, very much. And of course, I'll be speaking with you later, and a little bit later on, I want to get all these calls in. That's my priority, and I'm going to let Rick a little bit later tell you about how Terry came up with some of his slogans and things like it. Very interesting. Let's go to North Carolina. John, you're on with Rick Oatman.
Good afternoon, Rick and Chuck.
Go ahead.
John, my name is John Grindis, and Julie and I have been friends of Terry for almost 20 years. We met him through a pioneer in this effort, Glenn Spencer, when we worked with him back in the early 90s. And we can truly say that Terry gave himself every opportunity. He was with us in Phoenix several times. He was with us in Manchester, New Hampshire. He was with us in Washington, D.C. And I say to everyone, he's with us still today in our hearts. And Julie and I send our sincerest and warmest love to Melanie and his family. And I think we all need to carry on the fight the way, of course, that you, Chuck, and Rick are doing, and others. So anyway, Julia and I are just as devastated as we can be about this. And he never missed a show in almost 500 programs. And he told me about 3 or 4 weeks ago when I spoke to him last that he wanted to make 500 programs. I think he got about 495, and so I don't know whether they'll continue to flesh out the 500, but he was on this rerun on Sunday. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. And Rick, I'll tell you, you can comment on that. And also, as we go to the world famous D.A. King right now with the Destin Inman Institute. D.A., I know you got a very, very, very busy schedule, and we're just glad that we were able to hook up with you.
Hello, Chuck. If Rick's on the line, hello, Rick, my friend.
Yes, he is.
I understand that we are expressing our love and admiration for our dear friend who is gone today, and I would have been sad to miss that opportunity. So thank you for having me.
And Rick, you there? Okay.
I'm not okay, but
yes.
Thanks. But thanks for coming on, DA. I mean, you felt especially close to Terry, and I loved him like a brother, and I know you were close to him too. And what would you say is your fondest memory that pops into your head of Terry?
Rick, I think I heard your question. Please know that I can barely hear you. But if the question was what was one of my fondest memories of Terry, to be honest, I've been kind of dreading this phone call all day, trying to decide what to say about the fact that I'm coming to terms with the fact that I'll never see one of my best friends in the world ever again. It's very, very difficult to talk about. I met Terry in 2003 in Washington, D.C. at a seminar given by FAIR on illegal immigration, and Terry and I were two of those friends who were friends the first time we shook hands, and I can't express how glad and fortunate I feel to have known him for these years. He's been in my house several times. The only negative thing I can say about Terry is when he would come to visit me and give us his time to come to Atlanta and speak at my rallies or different events. When he would come and it was time to eat breakfast, we're Southern people here. I could never get this Los Angeles man to eat grits. But I have to sort through it. But one of my favorite Terry Anderson stories is Terry flew out here one time to speak at an event to help me out and to help the cause for defined and defended borders and to keep our country. We had an event that we were supposed to both speak at here in Atlanta around 8 o'clock in the morning, which in February, when this was happening, would have involved us getting up sometime around 5. Well, Terry flew in, and we stayed up talking and joking and telling stories and had a nice dinner, but we stayed up rather late that night. It was nearly 2 o'clock before I got to sleep. And Terry was in the guest room. My wife, Sue, woke me up at 4 o'clock or 4:30 and said, D.A. Don's the phone's ringing. So I answered the phone, and it turned out that it was the lady who had sponsored the event, which was being canceled because here in Atlanta we had, which is not unusual, we had a very, very bad ice storm. And anybody who's ever been in the East